Paul confronted the idols of the culture, so his converts changed in the way in which they lived, to the extent that the very economy was affected. The culture was affected. Now, how did he do that? As I mentioned before, Acts 19 doesn't actually give us a sermon from Paul, which is rather unusual, though it gives us a little synopsis. I slowed down as we went over it so you could hear it. Demetrius actually gives a synopsis of the kind of preaching Paul was doing. He says, Paul, this man, this fellow, Paul says, man-made gods are no gods at all. See, that's actually discerning and exposing. He was talking about the idols, and he went after the idols. Now, we don't learn more than that in this passage. So if you want to know something about this sermon, this kind of preaching, it's not that hard. You go back through the rest of Acts. You'll see Paul confronting the idols in Acts 14 at Lystra. You see him confronting them in Acts 16 at Philippi. But probably the most famous place is Acts 17, where he preached at Athens. And if you go back there, and we won't do that very long since we're trying to expound this passage, you will see three things about how Paul dealt with idols in his preaching. First of all, when he went into Athens, we see in chapter 17, verse 16, he saw that the city was filled with idols. He saw the idols. He discerned the idols. He recognized them. And as I just said, I don't think you can minister the gospel very well unless you look around your city and see the idols. Figure out what they are. The idols of... See, every gender has a set of idols. Every culture has a set of idols. Every class has a set of idols. Every race has a set of idols. Every individual has a set of idols. And Paul knew what they were. Then the second thing he did when he got in there was he went to the Agora to preach against the idols. Now, again, not to go too deep into Acts 17, but you and I, when you see the word Agora, which is always translated the marketplace, we see Paul went into the marketplace to preach. We, in our culture now, only think of the marketplace or the public square as a place where there's a lot of shops and maybe foot traffic. So when you and I hear that Paul went into the Agora, the marketplace, to preach against the idols, you and I almost think about individual evangelism. He just wanted to find individuals and preach the gospel to them. And of course he did. But you have to realize something about the Agora. That's where the culture was formed. Look, this is before print. This is before paper. I mean, essentially. This is before all communication had to happen face to face. And therefore, the Agora, the marketplace was the place not only where there was commercial culture going on, which of course is very important. That's where the business happened. This is also the place where the theaters were. This is the place where the public halls were, where everything was debated. This is the place where the law courts were, where the state houses were. In other words, for Paul to take the gospel and confront the idols in the marketplace would be like us going to Hollywood, to Harvard, and in the New York Times. He's not just out on the street. See, today, when we go literally out on the street, all we do is get individuals. We don't get into the culture, because the culture is actually not there anymore, not really. But in that time and place, Paul was taking the gospel into Hollywood, into Harvard, and into, to the faculty, into the boardroom of the New York Times. That's what he was doing.